my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my March 2023 TBR. So March is Women's History Month. I did try to build this TBR with that in mind and focus on some books that do spotlight women and women's issues. I also did go more ambitious than I typically would for a monthly TBR, so we'll see how that goes. It has not gone well in the past, but you know, I'm bad at making decisions and I want to read all the things. And by ambitious, I mean 6. So let's go ahead and start talking about them, and then at the end, I'll name my 5-star predictions. We are going to start this TBR off with my current read, which is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika L. Sánchez. This follows our main character Julia, whose sister Olga dies in a tragic accident, which leaves Julia to pick up the broken pieces of her family while also dealing with her own grief, which is only made more difficult by her mother channeling her own grief into pointing out all of Julia's imperfections, as Olga was the perfect daughter of the family. However, it is not long before she discovers that there may have been more to Olga's life than that, as she tries to live up to a seemingly impossible situation. So I'm only 25 pages into this book, which is not much of a reading update, honestly. The only thought that I really have right now is that I am really intrigued to keep going, and it sounds like and feels like this book is going to destroy me emotionally by the end of it. And honestly, it's one of those books where I feel like the description itself really speaks for why I want to read it so badly. Like, it just sounds good. Prior to starting this book, I did take a look at the moods on Storygraph, and emotional is at the top of the list, followed by sad and reflective. So yeah, my brain is ready to continue on with this book, and I know that I'm probably going to love it. But is my heart ready? That's the real question. I mean, the answer is probably no, but I'm still looking forward to finishing it anyway. Next up is Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir, which is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth. So Gideon the Ninth does have a lovely little author's blurb on the bottom of its cover, and this is typically what I use as the description of this book, so I am just going to go ahead and read it off now. Lesbian necromancers explore a haunted gothic palace in space. Decadent nobles vie to serve the deathless emperor. Skeletons. And yeah, I can't think of a more accurate way to put it. Harrow the Ninth is a book that I honestly have no idea how it's going to go. I read part 1 of this book at some point last year, which is a good 130 pages of it, and then I took a break and I haven't picked it up since. Which is a shame, because Harrow was my favorite character in Gideon the Ninth, and I was super excited for this, but I just had a lot of trouble getting into it for whatever reason. Maybe it just wasn't the right time, I don't know, but what I do know is that I want to try again, because I do really like this series. I've heard really amazing things about this book specifically. I do think that I will be starting this one from the beginning, because I only remember like 3 things about it, and we'll just see what happens. Next up is Iron Widow by Xiran J. Zhao. This is a book that blends Chinese history and mecha science fiction. The girls pilot giant transforming robots to battle the mecha aliens that are outside of the Great Wall. This follows our main character, who plans to assassinate the male pilot who is responsible for the death of her sister. However, when her vengeance comes in an unexpected way, she gets labeled as the Iron Widow and paired with the strongest and most controversial male pilot. She is determined to use this opportunity to figure out why the system works in misogynistic ways and stop more girls from getting sacrificed. I mean, yes to all of that. I don't know if I can accurately put my excitement for this book in the words here. This story just sounds so cool in so many ways. And I've come across this author a couple of times while just scrolling through Book Talk, and their content has only made me even more excited to dive into their work. And for me, that starts here, and hopefully will continue with the sequel. And also the cover of not only this, but also the sequel are both just absolutely stunning, and I can't move on in this video until I say that. Next up is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the sequel to These Violent Delights. These Violent Delights is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that is set in 1920s Shanghai. There are rival gangs and a monster, and our main character has to team up with her first love, who is also her first betrayal, and they have to set aside aside their guns and their grudges in order to stop all of the mayhem. The amount that I think about this series on a daily basis is honestly kind of wild. And I feel like the only way to cure that is to read the sequel, and by cure, I mean make it worse, which is not what I want here. I need to know everything about where the story is going to go, I need to feel the atmosphere again, and I just need to be with these characters again because this series features one of my favorite cast of characters that I have ever read. And on that note, it also features some pretty badass women, so it definitely fits in this TBR. I am so incredibly excited to read this book and then also Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong at some point in the future. Next up is the Gilded Ones by Namina Frona. This takes place in a world where the girls undergo a blood ceremony that determines whether or not they will be able to stay in the village. During that ceremony, our main character's blood runs gold, which is considered to be a color of impurity. A mysterious woman comes to her and offers her a choice between staying and facing the fate that the village has for her, or to go with her and the fight for the Emperor with other girls who are just like her, as they are the only army who is able to stop the Empire's greatest threat. This is a series that I've been wanting to get into ever since it came out. I've heard really good things about it, and I feel like it's going to do some really interesting things. Like, its top moods on Storygraph are adventurous, dark, and emotional, followed by mysterious and inspiring. And I am incredibly intrigued and excited by that combination. Even though I do think the description does come off a little bit basic for YA, I think it has more going on than that, and I'm super curious about all of it. Next up is Watch Us Rise by Renée Watson and Ellen Hagan. This follows two best friends who start a women's rights club at their New York City high school. They soon go viral, but they gain a lot of trolls alongside of all of the support, and when things escalate in real life, their principal ends up shutting down the club. Our two main characters risk everything in order to speak out and stand up against the threats. This story sounds amazing, and it also mixes in poetry and artwork, which also sounds amazing. And there was really no way I was going to make a Women's History Month TBR and then not talk about this book. Like, this has sat on my TBR for a little while now, and I feel like I've just been saving it up for a Women's History Month TBR. And I am definitely ready for this TBR to be the TBR. I have always been excited for this story, and that excitement has definitely not waned over time. Like, every time I see it, it just refreshes my excitement for it all over again, and I am very much looking forward to hopefully reading it soon. Before we move on here, I do just want to give a content warning because the next book that I'm going to be talking about does heavily feature R and SA. There's really no way around it in the description, so I do just want to give a warning before I get into it, in case you need to click out or skip to the 5-star predictions or whatever you need to do. The 5-star predictions will start at this time, that will be over here, and there will be a 10-second countdown between this part and when I start talking about the book, so you can do what you need to do. And the final book in this TBR is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This is a story that takes place in 4 different parts across our main character Eden's high school career. Everything in her life seems pretty simple until she is R-worded by her brother's best friend, and she feels like she can't tell anyone even though she knows that that's what she's supposed to do. And this follows Eden as she navigates this trauma and the pains of adolescence while also learning how to embrace the power of survival. I am slowly but surely making an effort to prioritize books that have sat around on my TBR for long amounts of time, and this book is definitely one of those. It may be one of the longest, actually. This is one of those books where I've only ever heard amazing things about it, and I think it also has like a sequel or a follow-up of some sort, and I am also very interested in that. Like, it was through me seeing that book that I was finally reminded to go ahead and throw this in this TBR. This is another one that I feel like might destroy me emotionally, but I also think it's going to be very important and very powerful. So yeah, I do think it's time that I finally get this off of my TBR. Okay, so now that we are at the end of the TBR, it is time to name my 5-star predictions. I have a top 4 of sorts, and these will be ranked in order from least likely to most likely, but all still very likely because they're my 5-star predictions. Number 4 is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, number 3 is Iron Widow, number 2 is Our Violent Ends, and number 1 is The Way I Used to Be. And obviously anything can happen, so we'll see how this part of the video holds up. I hope it holds up well. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye.